And we're back, and my next guest here on the podcast is Debbie Tannenbaum, who has a book that is set to release very soon called Transform Techy Notes to Make Learning Sticky. Debbie, like me, has found her way in educational leadership through educational technology. So I'm excited, Debbie, to have you on the show. Welcome. And if you could just help fill in the gaps. Who are you? Where are you? What do you do?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm a longtime listener of the podcast. And um, so basically, what I do is I am an elementary school tech coach in Northern Virginia. So I work with students and teachers to help them integrate technology into daily instruction. In addition, I am a blogger. I've been blogging on my website, Tannenbaum Tech, for almost 2.5 years now. And I've been doing some speaking and sharing in presentations virtually. And I'm really excited because my book is coming out very soon. And it's all about how to find easy ways to implement technology into both your students' instruction, but also to help you as a professional as well.
That's so great. I'm excited about the book too because I've already seen it and I endorsed it. And got the Dan Kreiner stamp of approval. And I'm really looking forward to it coming out. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. But before we talk about the book, you said something about your work in the elementary grade band in terms of technology and um, you know I guess I wanted to ask you about not just your journey through education, but specifically your experiences with being a tech coach and finding your way leadership wise through educational technology. I've done the instructional coaching thing for a while, and now I'm in a position where I'm coaching with more of a technology lens as an instructional coach for digital learning. And I'm going to be honest, and I'd love to get your thoughts about this as well. I have said to people over the last few weeks, and I don't know why it took me this long to even realize this for myself, that I think in terms of leadership, in my position, I'm able to influence and impact instruction and really innovative instruction in ways that I don't know that I'd be able to do as a building or certainly as a district administrator. And therefore, I just feel like I have a lot more of an ability to affect change instructionally speaking, more and make a bigger impact than a building administrator. So I'm looking for your experiences here too. But if you could maybe help answer that question too, or provide your thoughts, I would love to hear it.
Sure. Well, I think we're in a really interesting time right now. We're in a time where technology has taken a bigger role than we could have ever possibly imagined, even a year and a half ago. We've reached the point where it isn't about, I would like to learn the technology, but we've created a need to learn technology in a way that we've never had, at least in my teaching career. Last March, when teachers were forced to teach remotely, they didn't have the tools that they needed, at least not in my district. And so it created this huge need to learn. And so teachers that I work with in my building who might have attended a training here or there that I had provided suddenly were eager to learn. They wanted to find ways to reach their students. Their commitment to their students led them to learn ways to engage their students in ways that they hadn't ever done before. And, that continued into this summer. And I was really lucky this summer. I was able to do 2 weeks of professional development with my staff, where I was able to show them how they could use tools to give them opportunities that they wouldn't have had without the tools. And that's really one thing I find is really important when we talk about technology is that technology for the sake of technology is not where we want to go, but that technology can give us opportunities to do things with our students regardless of their age that we couldn't do without the technology. And now that's even more important than it ever has been because we're able to reach students pretty much anywhere, anytime using some of these valuable tools that not only allow students to synthesize information, but to also create and share their understandings.
Yeah, I agree, and I love what you said about like it's not just tech for the sake of using tech. What I'm really loving about my role and what I really try and do to influence teachers is to really push them to understand that the technology is really a platform for students to be able to not only reach higher levels of thinking and learning and engagement, but also to produce content that shows their mastery of their learning, ideally. But also, what I love about it is really engaging with an authentic audience. I really think that as we get into the next handful of years, we're going to see more and more opportunities for students to get experiences in school, even at an elementary level, but certainly in the secondary grade levels, to really start honing their skills at actually creating content for a broader audience, and maybe not just the teacher in the classroom. Right? Am I on track there? Because I that's what I love
Absolutely.
about it.
I really do love that part. And I think that authentic purpose is so powerful. And, when we first started talking about using technology, I got my master's back in 2002 with technology. So it's changed quite a bit since then. But when we talk about that, when we take our students from just being consumers of technology, where maybe they're doing a program where they're just clicking buttons, and we then have them create information, we're taking that information and we're having them synthesize it. And so that in it of itself is an authentic task, because in the future, we don't know what our students will necessarily be doing. And so by teaching our students to take information that they've processed, synthesize it, and create something new, that's a skill that they're going to need for the future in and of themselves. And that's something that even our students as young as kindergarten can do. And it's something I feel extremely passionate about, because we need to teach our kids those skills, those future ready or 21st century skills, or whatever you want to call them, because that's what they're going to need as they become adults. It's not just regurgitation of information. So it's just
Yeah.
so important that we do those things. And I've been finding there's so many amazing tools that will help us to help our students to do those things, because we really need to help our students and scaffold that whole process of going from learning to building that independence. And that's something we can start even at those early ages.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And one of the things that I keep referring back to, not just here on the podcast and in my content, but just in my professional life, is the World Economic Forum skills for the future. And I think a couple of years ago they came out with skills for, I think it was the year 2022, and maybe they're up to like 2025 now. But the one that really stood out to me the most, and what drives my passion for getting students, and heck, even other educators, to create content for an authentic audience, is the fact that leadership and social influence really climbed the ladder and climbed the rankings on that list, to the point where it's one of the top, let's say, five most important skills for people to have moving forward. And I'm like, we need to really kick ourselves in gear here, and teach our students how to lead and influence by using their voice, and having not just more of a say in what goes on instructionally, but how they present information, and how they really um, use resources that are at their disposal to really get their thoughts out, and just like really amplify their own voice and the voices of their classmates and friends and people around them too. So I'm all about that. I really am.
I mean, absolutely. And I think that it's just so important that we empower the students to do those things. I know, especially, as far as my journey, I only started blogging 2.5 years ago. I was terrified to first start putting my voice out. I was encouraged by another educator to do so, and I was really grateful about that. But we all have a story to share, and it's so important that we not only help our students to share their voice, but we model that as well. That modeling piece is key. And the students I work with, they know that I blog. They know that I present. Sometimes I'll be like, well, I shared this stuff with my teachers that I work with while I'm presenting. They know that I am taking those risks and going out there. And one thing I feel really passionate about for the future is I want to try to start promoting that with the students I work with. If you've read, Social Media, by Jennifer Casatad. She talks about that they not only need to have digital citizenship, but they need to have that digital leadership as well. And it's so important, and it can start so early. Even our youngest students can, create vlogs or blogs, and they can share things, with the school's Twitter handle. We can share their work in an authentic way. It doesn't have to be something big and fancy. And I think it's just so important that the students know that. My students know that when they're working with me, I take pictures and then I post their work. Their work has an authentic audience. It's not just the work that they're doing in the classroom, but it's being presented to the school community. And sometimes that will get retweeted out to the district community. So it's really looking at that, and also telling your school story. All of our schools are doing amazing things. Social media provides a huge window into all the great things we do at our schools, because we all are better together, and when we see each other's stories we learn more.
Well, first, I love that you name dropped Jennifer Casatad. Jen's a pretty good friend, and one of my most vivid ISTE memories. I think it was because it was the first ISTE I went to in San Antonio in 2017. Was Jen's session that she did on social media shortly after the book released, and that was a lot of fun. But one of my, I guess we'll name drop in terms of some platforms and programs now too. One of my most recent, most famous ed tech programs at this point has actually become WeVideo, and I know that not all schools have it and use it, but it is just super. It's all encompassing, and it's an amazing platform for students to create content. And one of the things that I keep thinking about it, and if I had my own classroom, this would be easier. But one of the things that I'd love to help teachers out with is, kids, at least my own kids, watch a ton of YouTube, and I think what a great way to get kids to really tap into their own learning by presenting information that they learn in a video or even a podcast format where they emulate and imitate some of their favorite YouTubers, or do a style that they really love to watch. And I'm thinking of maybe like an unboxing video. A lot of
Mhm.
times I know kids watch these unboxing videos, and it's it's almost mind blowing how captivating they can be and how engaging they can be. Um, but I think of sometimes projects or even a book. Like if you're in an ELA classroom at the secondary level, or you're in a reading portion of your program as at an elementary level, getting these kids to kind of unpack or unbox the chapter that was just read or the part that was just read in a book, I think that'd be super powerful. So I love stuff like that, really creative stuff.
And at the elementary level, teachers in my district have We Video right now. We don't have it for our students currently, but even a tool as simple as Flipgrid can do amazing things. Flipgrid has come such a long way. It's a free tool. And now you can even do podcasts inside of Flipgrid. It has a mic only mode. And so there's so many possibilities, and you can record up to 10 minutes. And let's be honest, when we're working with our students, we really don't want them to go on and on and on. We really want them to plan something that's concise and can get to the point quickly. And so something as easy as that even has screen recording. They can add stickers where they've made something, it can be their own creation. So I absolutely agree, that that's so important for our students to do, but also honoring the fact that a lot of our students, might want to try something different. And that whole idea of voice and choice is just so important. I've seen students create amazing things. And, in the elementary level, we use a program called Wixie. Well, Wixie recently added video. So now students can not only make a creation in that tool, but they can create a video in that tool as well to accompany that. And one of the things I work with my students a lot is that whole critical thinking piece, and why their ideas are good ones, especially at the younger grades. And so tools like the three we just talked about, all enable students to really provide that reasoning in a way they might not be able to do in a straight text response.
Yeah, and a little bit of a shameless plug here for me. You mentioned the Flipgrid mic only mode. I love that as well, especially the podcaster in me really loves that. And I created a pretty popular video on YouTube about how to access and how to utilize the mic only mode. So if there's anyone listening who is interested in learning more about Flipgrid's mic only mode to have students explore essentially podcasting more. Please check out that video. Go to Leader of Learning on YouTube, and I have a video there on how to do that. Let's kind of transition now into talking about the book a little bit more too, because I'm sure we could keep talking about ed tech tools and things like that for a while. And I
We
know
could
that, yeah,
easily.
and I know that's in the book, but that's not all of what the book is. The book is
No,
you
it's not.
on paper. It's about your journey. It's clearly, it's obviously about your thoughts on ed tech as well. But what I do love about the book is the way that it's organized. It's in three parts. Part one, getting your feet wet. Part two, next steps. Part three, take your transformation to the next level. But each of those parts is broken out into the parts of the word transform, which becomes an acronym all unto itself. And so I was wondering if we could maybe just start there and you explain that acronym, what transform means, and then how you really
Sure.
kind of unpack that throughout the book.
Sure. So, like you said, transform is an acronym. So, in the first part, it's talk. We do the T, R, and the A. There's three letters in each part. And so, at the first chapter, I talk about how I had to turn away from closed doors. Until 2017, I was not a connected educator. That seems crazy for me now. And I taught behind closed doors, and it wasn't always easy. My early teaching years, I was always willing to try something new, but I found it hard. I thrive with collaboration, and I didn't always have that. Sometimes I did, but sometimes I didn't. And it wasn't until I started to discover technology that I found something that really helped things click. And I found it in my first year of teaching, and I got my master's, like I said, in 2002. However, I kept learning new things, but I didn't necessarily have a community to back that up. And so that first chapter talks about how I discovered technology in a really meaningful way.
And I want to
And then it
just
goes,
piggyback off of that for a
sure.
second, and I'm sorry if I'm taking another opportunity to, in some kind of an unofficial way, shamelessly plug my own stuff again. But I just wanted to essentially second what you're saying about how you realized you needed to not just kind of isolate and live in your own bubble in your own classroom. And the reason I say that is because I realized that as well, and it actually led me to contributing a chapter to a book that's not quite out yet at the time of this recording, but should also be soon. And that is the 100 things that educators or teachers need to stop doing. And I'm really proud of the work that I've done in this book and all 100 authors and contributors. But my chapter is stop worrying about what others will think of you. And that's a lot of what I wrote about, to be honest, is kind of breaking through the isolation and even imposter syndrome that might hold people back from reaching out to others, whether it's in their own school or district, or certainly other educators out there in, I don't know, the Twitter land or social media land. Because man, at this point, if you're not getting connected and if you're not really tapping into other human resources, you're, in my opinion, this is just me, you're really missing the boat, and I don't want to, I don't want to like throw people under the bus or point fingers or lay blame, but I just really think it's so powerful.
I agree 100%. And it's definitely been life changing for me. And so then the book goes into ways that we can revisit how technology is used. Like we've talked about, I believe I talk about transform tech tools in my book, tools that give you opportunities that the tech we wouldn't have without the tech, that are really versatile and really enhance and transform learning. And so in the second chapter, I really spend some time talking about those tools. I have 10 tools that I rely on the most because I feel like they have the most meaningful impact. That doesn't mean there aren't other tools that have meaningful impact. And then in the third chapter in the A, I talk about amplifying learning using technology. I'm a big proponent of thinking routines. I feel like they really help make our students' thinking visible. So Project Zero's thinking routines are a big proponent. And I talk about ways that we can really amplify that learning with our students using a variety of those transform tech tools. And so all of that's kind of that getting your feet wet part. And then in the second part, I talk about nurturing agency, working with younger students. I found that initially I was playing a lot of whack-a-mole when I was teaching. I'd help one kid, another kid would pop up, and it was exhausting. And
Like
so
just
I do a
putting out
lot more.
fires.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Promote student agency when I talk about using icons. I talk about the role of video in providing agency, the role of language. I also talk a lot about ways to empower your student voice. And then the book kind of takes a little bit of a turn and really focuses on the educator. It talks about seeking connections beyond your school. I didn't really have that connection before 2017. It changed my life. Just going and being on Twitter changed my life. It talks about finding your PLN. I have a unique experience that I built my PLN, and about a year ago I got hacked and my handle was totally disrupted, and so I had to start all over again. 3 years into my journey, and now I actually believe in a lot of ways I have a better PLN. A lot of the people are the same, but I just followed ed tech leaders. Now I follow education thought leaders, and so that's really helped me a lot to grow as a individual and as an educator. And then in the last part, the book talks about offering your voice. I've started blogging 2 years ago. That led to me then deciding I wanted to speak at conferences. That risk taking, that challenging yourself is so important. We need to model those things for our students. It talks about reaching beyond your expectations, trying things that scare you, knowing that if you don't try them, you'll never, ever be able to achieve them. And then the book really ends talking about ways to maximize learning's impact. COVID has been challenging, but COVID has shown us so many amazing ways to connect. I mean, you and I connected because of the Teach Better Admin Mastermind. I had been listening to your podcast for a long time, but I had never connected with you before then. And that connection happened because I listened to a Teach Better live, 12-hour live, and happened to ask Dave Schmittou in the comments if I could join, even though I wasn't an administrator. You and I
Yep.
both do coaching. That's a
Yeah.
leadership role.
And actually, I'd love to ask you about that. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you have sort of realized your place leadership wise in this space that you're in as a coach and in instructional technology, and I have too, and I've dabbled in the admin space before, but again, like I said before, I really have come to terms with the fact that I think, and it really depends on how people, I guess, define leadership. But to me, leadership is really, getting people to take action and to move forward, and in the education space, instructionally speaking, especially, to innovate and just keep pushing the envelope. And again, I just feel like for me, um, I can influence and impact those areas so much more in this kind of coaching role. And maybe I don't have the admin paycheck, but I also don't have the admin hours and stress and responsibilities either. I guess my question for you is, like, I mean, because the podcast is Leader of Learning, and you've listened before, and I'm all about label-less leadership. Like, what was it, or when was it that you kind of realized that about you and the role you're in? Like, yeah, I am a leader, and darn it, I belong in the Teach Better Mastermind, even though it says admin, because I'm a leader too. Stuff like that.
Well, I think it began when I started to blog. And I started to blog for myself, but yet it seemed to resonate with other people. And people would write me things like saying I had inspired them. And then that led to me presenting. And I view my role in the school as definitely a leadership role because I am responsible for the tech, helping that technology vision for the school to come out. When I started my position at my current school, I started and the person before me had been there a long time. Our styles were very different, but they both helped the staff. And people in my staff say to me all the time that they've learned in such a different way, not good or bad, but so I provide leadership there. But I also provide leadership in my blogging, and I provide leadership as I'm presenting, and as my book comes out, that's another way. And I think it's just really important. One of the things I've started to realize is that it's not about the title. I know that I've read lots of books talking about that as well, but it's not really about the title. It's about how do you choose to inspire and empower those around you. And that's really important. And when I wrote the book's purpose was to say, yes, some of these things are scary at first, but if you take them one step at a time, for first your students, and then you decide to take those same messages for yourself, you're going to find yourself in a very different place that you could have never imagined. 5 years ago, if you told me I would have written a book and been blogging for 2.5 years, I would have thought you were crazy. But I have grown so much as an educator from all of those experiences, all of the reflection that I've engaged in, and I know as you when you're podcasting, you get to do a lot of that reflection as well. But it's really important. We consume so much information on a daily basis, and it goes in and out. It's really when we take that time to pause and reflect that we really create meaningful change.
And just in case any listeners might have missed this, or Debbie might even have forgotten that she said this, I love what you said about leadership, and that leadership can be practiced no matter what your title is or your role is. Basically, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I think what you said is leadership is how you choose to inspire and empower those around you. I love that. I'm going to put it on a bumper sticker. I think I love that so much, and I love those words, inspire and empower, because um, that's so much of what came out of my research and what's going into my writing. And of course, you've heard it before on the podcast as well, especially the word inspire. To me, and I love the book title here to transform. Transformational leadership is so much about inspiring and empowering others to like all be part of the journey together and find their way, and just really make everyone grow, not just themselves. But um, I love the book. I really do. Thank you so much for joining us here. Obviously, before
Thank
you
you.
go, I realize at this point you might not have a ton of information about the release date. We are recording this a little ways out, but the book should be available a little bit later in the springtime. And I know that everyone will be able to find it on Amazon and probably on Road to Awesome website, I would imagine.
Hmm.
But lots of luck with it.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for writing it, and also for giving us the time here on the podcast. How can people catch that blog that you've referred to a couple times, and any content that you're sharing, or just to reach out to you for more information?
No problem. So basically, on all social media, I'm Tannenbaum Tech. Um, whether it's Twitter's where I'm mostly at. I'm on Instagram. I'm now at Clubhouse. I've jumped on the Clubhouse bandwagon. I'm and LinkedIn. I am Debbie L. Tannenbaum on Facebook. Please feel free to reach out to me. My website is tannenbaumtech.com. I love connecting with other educators. I love learning with them, and this is really one of those things where we all learn together. And I love to share the things I've done that work, but I also love to hear what other educators do as well, because, you know, we like I said, we're all better together, and we all need to inspire and empower each other.
Hashtag better together. Love it. We're going to end it right there because I think that's an amazing message. I really do love your thoughts about leadership and
Thank you.
what leadership means to you. And then right there, let's grow and let's learn and let's just be better together. Debbie, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.